Call a council meeting to order tonight. We've got a quorum present. Tonight will be led in the invocation by Pastor Don Sneen, retired pastor at Augustana College in Sioux Falls. After the invocation, we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this time, I'd ask everybody to rise for the invocation.
Let us pray. Lord God, in the scriptures you have given a vision of a city to which peoples and nations flow. We thank you for such a vision, and we pray that your presence now will guide us as we consider together as leaders of this city and citizens of this city. We pray particularly this night that you will guide the discussion and the decisions with regard to the budget of the city. Give us, we pray, ties together, mutual regard that gird our civic life, honest and dedicated leadership, citizens committed to work together for the common good. Help us eliminate poverty, prejudice, and discord, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order. May men, women, and children from different backgrounds and cultures and talents work together with all of us for the good, our good, and your glory. In the name of Jesus, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Kathy Fenholz from the helpline tonight. Come up, please, Kathy. We have a proclamation, and it's Suicide Prevention Week, so the proclamation reads, whereas in the United States, one person dies by suicide every 15 minutes, and it is estimated that 4.47 million people in the United States are survivors of the suicide of a loved one, whereas the most recent statistics show that there were 123 suicide deaths in South Dakota in the year 2005, whereas suicide is now the 9th leading cause of deaths in the state of South Dakota and the 2nd leading cause of death among people from the age of 15 to 34 in South Dakota, whereas the stigma associated with mental illness works against suicide prevention by discouraging persons at risk for suicide from seeking life-saving health, and further traumatizes those people who lose a loved one to suicide. Whereas the South Dakota Strategy for Suicide Prevention represents an important starting point for the prevention of suicide attempts, and its efforts should be supported and encouraged to the maximum extent possible. Whereas the Helpline Center in Sioux Falls is the only crisis line in South Dakota that is certified by the American Association of Suicidology and is dedicated to reducing the frequency of suicide attempts and deaths and the pain of survivors affected by the suicides of loved ones through their suicide prevention, intervention, and aftercare efforts. Where it has been acknowledged that suicide is a major health problem and support must be given for educational programs, research projects, and intervention services. Now, therefore, I, Dave Munson, Mayor of the City of Sioux Falls, do hereby proclaim September 9th through September 15th, 2007 as Suicide Prevention Week in Sioux Falls. Thank you very much, Kathy. Appreciate it. Okay, we'll start with the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved, Benninga.
Benninga moved. Is there a second?
Second, Brown.
Brown seconded. Further comments, further motions? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion to approve the consent agenda, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
All members present voted. The consent agenda has been approved 8-0. Now, we're at the regular agenda, and is there, if you've got a motion you want to make, if you just want to make the motion that to approve the regular agenda with the motion to move item 5 to the bottom of the calendar, you can make that one motion, get a second, and everybody understands that, so if you want to go ahead and do that, go ahead.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to move item 5 to the end of the agenda and approve the regular agenda as amended.
Second, Costello.
That has been noted that that motion has been made and seconded by Costello that we will approve the regular agenda with the idea that item number 5 will be moved to the bottom of the calendar. Everybody understand that? Any other motions? Seeing no other motions, all in favor of the motion to approve the regular agenda as the amendment is, for vote yes, those opposed vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
No.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
All members present voted. That motion has been approved, 7 yes, 1 no. Now is the time that we set aside 5 minutes for anyone that wishes to address the council at public input. And we just ask that you give your name and then give your address, and then we'll try to keep you posted in the 5 minutes.
My name is Paul Jennings. I live at 305 North Hillside Place here in Sioux Falls. I promise I'll keep this very brief because I know you have a long night tonight. I'm here tonight to use my 5 minutes to share some thoughts about some items that the Argus leader chose to grace us with about tonight's budget meeting. I realize that after months of review, you've arrived at a place where it's time to make those appropriate decisions about taxpayers' money and how you're going to use it. Well, one of the things I'm coming up here is tonight is because I want to do this now instead of sitting here through the whole night and watching this. I'm going to go home and curl up with my Reagan diaries and watch on Channel 16. First, Commissioner Kavanaugh is going to propose that we require the funding of 6 additional police personnel to the tax rolls of Sioux Falls. I wholeheartedly agree with this. While the numbers of Sioux Falls may buck a national trend for crime rates, we continue to grow at just a huge rate. I live on the northwest side of town. I go to work every day at Wells Fargo, and it seems like we grow every day. And so my question is, how can we have a mandate and not support that mandate, not fund that mandate? We're not Washington, D.C. We're not even Pierce, South Dakota. We're Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Let's get the police hired, trained, and on the streets. Secondly, Commissioner Brown wants to set aside some money to find out what the citizens of Sioux Falls want. And, you know, Mr. Brown, I respect the fact that your heart's in the right place, but I wonder if it wouldn't be better if our commissioners would hit the streets and talk to the constituents face to face instead of spending more money on what is an overtaxed, an overtired, and over-opinionated constituency. I have yet to see somebody call me at my home and ask me, you know, what my opinion is. And, Mr. Litz, you're in my district, so I'm in the book. Call me sometime. We'll have coffee. I believe that what the taxpayers have spoken very clear about, they want infrastructure, they want water, and they want sensible extras when we can't afford them. Right now, the commission is 0 for 2. It isn't a good record, folks. So what I'd like to see, and I think would be a great thing, and I think the constituents would all agree, is to see more commissioners and maybe even the mayor in a dunk tank. You know, that would be a great source of funding. I think we could really see a great increase in our tax base on that. Finally, I want you to give some heed to Commissioner Staggers tonight. He's kind of taken a hit the last month or so in the CIP from our friends across the street at the Argus Leader. And I'll admit, I don't agree with everything he says and what he proposes, but he deserves a hearing. And I think tonight, last time I checked tonight, it is a democracy. And another book that I'm just having to complete is Al Gore's The Assault on Reasoning. Now, don't ask me how I come from Gore to Reagan, but it just happens that way. But I know that Gore states throughout his book that democracy needs an informed constituency. I think Kermit Staggers gives us that informed constituency. So as I go home tonight, just think about me, the common taxpayer, and the others that might be watching, and consider maybe seconding a couple of his amendments so that maybe we can have a good hearing about that. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time, and good luck tonight.
Thank you, Paul. Others that wish to address the council, public input for a period of 5 minutes. Anyone coming? I see no one coming forward, so we will move into the regular agenda at this time. Item number 2.
Item number 2 is a special one-day wine license for the Sister Cities Association to be held on September 15th, 2007 for the German Fest of Sioux Falls on Phillips Avenue from 10th to 12th Streets.
Hi, Lori Bossman with the City Finance Office. I can answer questions on item 2, and we also have the applicant here representing the German Fest if you have questions for him.
Questions of Lori on item number 2? Thank you, Lori. Others that wish to address the council on item number 2? Not. Is there a motion to approve?
Move for
Knutson,
approval,
who seconded?
I second that.
Who made the motion?
Jameson?
Jamison made the motion. Knutson seconded. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of that motion to approve item 2, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
All members present voted. Item number 2 has been approved. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is a second reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by setting forth an administrative procedure for the adoption, publication, and enforcement of rules by the Public Works Department regarding the city's utility services.
Good evening, Mark Cotter with the Office of Public Works. This builds off the presentation that Bob Capel, our division manager of the Environmental Division, did. It essentially codifies the way we adopt rules and update our rules through the liquid waste hauling program, and I'm here to answer any of your questions.
Questions of Mark on item number 3? Others that wish to address the council on item number 3? Close the council discussions and motion to approve.
Move to approve,
Litz moved. Is there a second?
Second, Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh seconded that motion. Further comments? Seeing no further comments, all in favor of the motion to approve item 3 will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 3 has been approved 8-0. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is a first reading, an ordinance of the City of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, amending the revised ordinances of the city by prohibiting the consumption of alcoholic beverages at Veterans Memorial Park.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Don Kearney with Parks and Recreation. This ordinance before you would add Veterans Memorial Park to a list of several other parks that where currently it's prohibited to consume alcohol. Due to the special nature of the park, the Veterans Memorial Park Advisory Board and the Parks and Recreation Board have recommended approval of this ordinance. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Questions of Don on item number 4, Kermit?
Yeah, Don, you mentioned that this would add the Veterans Memorial Park to a list of parks where you can't have alcoholic beverages. So there are some parks that can have alcoholic beverages?
Yeah, currently there are 10 where it's excluded. The rest, it's acceptable. It's okay.
Is there, do you know the parks that right now do not allow alcoholic beverages?
Yes.
Okay. Can you mention those, please?
The current ones where it's prohibited are Whittier, McKinnon, Tuthill, Tomar, Heritage, Lyon, Kenny Anderson, Pasley, Arrowhead, and then with this one tonight, would recommend Veterans Memorial Park.
Okay, thank you.
Bob Litz.
I went there twice last week. First time on a whim, the second time I went there and spent about an hour walking around. It's a very sobering memorial, to say the least. I see no reason whatsoever anybody should consume alcoholic beverages. I heard this smells fantastic.
Further questions of Don on item number 4?
I
Others
move
that
for
wish to address
approval.
others wish to address council? Is there a motion?
I move for approval.
Second, Jameson.
Knutson moves, Jamison seconds. To approve item number 4. Further discussion? I see no further discussion. All in favor of the motion to approve item 4, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Actually, we're setting the data hearing. for
Oh, yeah,
item
that's right.
4.
Excuse me. We're just setting a data hearing.
Okay, council members Kavanaugh? Yes. Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
All members present vote. The hearing date has been set for September 17th for item number 4, 8-0. Item number 6.
Item number 6 is deferred action, preliminary subdivision plan, a resolution of the City of Sioux Falls approving the preliminary plan of Friends Edition, 957th and South Dakota Highway 11.
Mike Cooper, Planning and Building Services. This item is located on the northeast corner of East 57th Street and Highway 11. It's approximately 50 acres in size. It's proposed to be divided up into 3 lots for future commercial development, along with a major drainage way on the north side of the property. This item has been deferred a couple of times to allow discussion of the proposed crossing of this drainage way. And just today, through meetings with Public Works and others and the affected property owners to the south, north, and east of this, we have proposed to add a note to this preliminary plan that would include the following language, and I'll just read this in for the record. The proposed drainageway crossing, indicated as Line Drive Avenue, cannot be platted or in any way constructed until a development agreement has been agreed to by Valley Investors, LLC, Robert Ray Farms Limited Partnership, LLC, Sanford Health, Eastside Baptist Church, and the City of Sioux Falls. We would add that language onto this plan with your approval tonight, and this would allow us in the future to continue to work with all the affected property owners as the drainageway and the crossing design would move into that final stages. So we are recommending your approval tonight, and we will add this language to the preliminary plan.
Questions of Mike on item number 6? Others that wish to address the council on item number 6? It'll be noted that Councilmember Jamison will be excused from item 6. Is there further discussion or motion to approve item 6?
Move to approve, Litz.
Litz moved. Is there a second?
Second, Benninga.
Benninga seconded. Further comments? I see no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve item 6 will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
So, Mayor, we're voting it as amended
See what?
with his amendment?
Yeah, what he's got.
Okay. Council members Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison. Oh, 3, okay. We're done. It passed.
Okay.
I got it.
All members present, 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 6 been approved. Item 7.
Item 7 is a resolution approving the special assessment role for nuisance removal in various areas in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
You have before you, Gene Roanhorse, Director of Finance. You have before you the nuisance ordinance for a special assessment. And if you have any questions, we do have people here from the departments that are responsible for it.
Questions of Gene on item number 7. Others that wish to address the council on item number 7?
Yeah, Gene, can you give us the total amount that we're assessing?
It's by department. In 2007, 2006, you didn't have to add those up, and I don't have a calculator with me. I'm not that fast to add them up.
Further questions? Others that wish to address the council on item number 7? Is there a motion to approve? Come forward then if you... And give your name, please, and your address.
I'm Bonnie Murray. I'm with Murray Construction. I have 3 properties in this tonight, which are under dispute. And so I don't want the assessment until someone can prove to me differently. I have brought my staff that completed the work.
Which ones did you say that you're contesting here?
I have complaints on 601 West 11th, 4515 South Tennis Lane, and 412 West 6th. They fall between a couple of your categories here, so I don't know which list they're on.
Yeah, it's hard to find. Do you have them? Are these all ready? Yeah, that's what I got. But your first one was 601, wasn't it?
West 11th. I see you have a lot of West 11th up there.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Can you tell me what they're for? Snow removal?
I
tree
got one
trimming?
for tree trimming, two for snow removal.
Okay. Were you notified prior to this meeting that what the arrangements were for payment?
No.
You received no notice?
On the snow removal to 4515 Tennis Lane, I got a phone call in an afternoon saying a complaint had been filed. My crews went out the next morning. It was late in the afternoon. Did the work. That's the last I hear about it till I got a bill from the city.
And when was the bill?
The bill was back in April of '07. The first one was April 10th.
And since you've received that bill, you've been unable to resolve this with any of the city staff?
Right. They say they did it, and my staff says they did it. My staff's here. I've done property management for 30 years. I don't get complaints from the cities that I don't resolve. I attempted to talk to the city clerk, who was very rude, and I tried to talk to Park and Rec. Their only response to me was I needed to show up here. So here I am.
Further questions of Bonnie? Not Bonnie, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, if we could have someone from the appropriate department respond to the concerns.
I just saw one there.
Good evening, Dave Skanky, City of Sioux Falls Public Parking. I can address the sidewalk snow complaints. Community Development Public Parking Department is responsible for enforcing sections 38-76. I'm just going to review those real quick for your reference. Section 3876 talks about the duty to remove sidewalk snow complaints, states that all sidewalks should be free from snow and ice within 48 hours. Then we do receive complaints after that. We go out and inspect all of those that we do get a complaint on. We give the individuals another 24 hours, so according to ordinance, after 72 hours after accumulation, that snow can be removed by city crews. The ordinance also goes on to section 3872 or 77, talks about notices given to property owners. It states that notice shall provide that each owner, a person in possession, is required to keep the sidewalk in front of his premises free and clear from ice and snow. It also goes on to talk that that those notices do not need to be given in person, that they can be placed in the local newspaper, which we do. We do that on 3 different occasions in October, November, December. We put those in the legal and also put those in a little ad, and I do have copies of that if you want to care to take a look at that. So, and I do remember talking to Ms. Murray on several occasions. We did get a complaint on 2 of her properties. We sent our parking patrol out to inspect that. What we found was that those properties were not clean from snow. We left notices at those locations and also called Mrs. Murray and told her that we did have a complaint on those properties and that they needed to be removed. The snow needed to be removed immediately. We sent a patrol back out. 24 hours later, we found that it was not completed, so we hired a contractor and did that. And if you can give me a second, I should be able to find those. We do have before and after pictures. approximately 43 of these, so it'll just take a second.
Pardon?
We have 43 of these that we did shovel this year. Just another footnote on that, we had 736 complaints this year on sidewalk snow complaints, and our policy is that we do not go out and look for sidewalks that are not shoveled. It has to be by complaint, by street address. So all of these that we inspect are from individuals that have called either the mayor's office or our office, have complained about sidewalks not being shoveled.
I only saw two in your reading.
I sincerely apologize, we can't find that one in our stack, and we had 43 of these. I thought I had all of them in here. I will show the invoice that Murray Construction was invoiced on the date shown there. Again, I did talk to Mrs. Murray several times on this, and she did contest that her crews had gone out and done this at some point in time. And I don't know if that's her, have you contracted out for that, or is that actually your crews? Okay. We do have an invoice on it. We do hire a contractor to do those things. $311.65. We do not pass on any type of administration cost. This is a direct cost from the contractor that we pay for, and then just try to recoup the exact cost of what it was to clear those sidewalks. If you wanted to go on to some of the weed ones, I could run downstairs and see
Mr.
if
Chairman,
that
I
was
have a question.
misplaced.
Go ahead.
Dave, if for some reason there, you were to hire a contractor, contact one, send them out, and by the time they got there, the property owner had actually cleaned the property, would they just turn around and go away?
That is correct. There is no surcharge, and that does happen quite often, that the contractor will go out, sidewalks cleared. There is no charge for that.
So in this case, if they went out there, there was a legitimate need for them to be there?
That is correct.
Yeah, I also have a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
The $311.65, how much sidewalk are we talking about having snow removed from?
It's charged by an hourly rate, and I could certainly let you take a look at our hourly rates that we get from the contractor.
On 601 West 11th, you're talking about the handicapped curb cut.
You know,
How
that's-
big are that space?
What's the address of that, Bonnie?
601 West 11th. And the handicapped curb cut was plowed. According to your own ordinances, you say you can't put the snow there.
Would you come up, Bonnie, would you come up to the mic, please? Thank you.
The 601 West 11th, you're talking about a handicapped curb cut. That is all the bigger that space is. And the city puts the snow back there. So normally, yes, they call me up, they say, because I have another apartment house on Madison that they do it to every time, that is full of handicapped persons. They call me with a complaint, my crews go out and they move that snow. And your own ordinance right here of 38-78 says you will not deposit snow or ice on any sidewalk, and the city is doing exactly that. In all good faith, I sent my crews out there. If there is a confusion on where, they should have made it clearer. But my crews opened that curb cut. I've been sued for not having those curb cuts open. They are opened first. And $311 to open up a handicapped curb cut is ridiculous. You are talking about 6 feet of snow on a second plow, not a first plow.
I've looked, Dave, I've looked through here now. It's under Murray Construction?
It's
Bonnie?
billed to Murray Construction Company on my invoices.
I don't know, it must show up on something different here, because I've
All
been
of our
through
data
here.
was under Murray Construction, LLC.
I see, the only one I've seen is, if this, I don't know if this is yours, Bonnie, the only one I've seen in here, that when I've been through it, is I've seen one, is it under Murray Construction, 333 North Phillips?
Yep.
And the one I see here is, it's tree trimming at 412 West 6th.
Yep, I have 3 invoices, 2 snow, 1 tree trimming.
And that's the only one
And the tree trimming, 2 more of my crew.
and that's the only one, I don't see the other ones on here.
Mr. Mayor, I move to defer this 1 week.
Okay, the motion has been to defer the 1 week, that'd be to the 17th of September. Is there a second?
Just point of clarification, just the entire item or just?
Just this one.
Just this one.
Well,
Unless he wants to do them all at one time.
Well, what about the other people that might have?
Well, I don't see them all on here. If I can make a suggestion, why don't we just defer the whole thing? Because I looked through this and I didn't see anything on here, and I'd really get it right.
What about the other people that are out here that have other?
We could let them speak, on it, because but I just,
My motion, Mayor, was to defer only this item.
I can't even find them on here.
This particular vendor, not the whole list.
Because I can only find them one time on that sheet.
I second that
I don't
motion.
know. So you just want to do the one? Because that's all I see that's on here, Bonnie.
But guys, I got
Yeah.
3.
Well, we're going to have to go back. I'll just be
I
candid.
know, but then I have to pay all these people to
But I'll be
come back a
candid with
week
you.
from now.
I got to go back.
And I asked your office
excuse
to
me.
defer it.
Please excuse me. I got to go back and do some research on this because I just only see your one, so I apologize for that. And if it's not done right, I apologize.
So then we can defer all 3 of them till next week.
That's what I would suggest because I don't
Okay.
see them on here myself. But maybe I've looked through them about 3 times. So
Okay.
have you got the motion?
I guess, point of order, if they're not on here, why do we need to defer it?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Well, the only thing I want to be careful, if I looked through this 3 times, I don't know if anybody else has or not. Did you look through it?
I couldn't find it.
I couldn't. I found one. I found the one on that was on 6th Street, the tree
I
trimming,
like
for
to make it.
$150. That's the only one I saw.
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
Pardon?
I'd like to make a substitute motion.
What's that?
I'd like
We don't
to-
really have a motion because I hadn't seconded
Okay.
anybody.
Okay, I thought we had a second.
So,
I'd like to forget the snow removal on those 2 issues that aren't even on the books, and I'd like us to I'd like to make a motion that we handle the tree trimming one tonight while our staff is here and move on.
Second that.
so your motion is to just handle the one on the tree trimming and that's it?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know how, legally, what do we do? I don't see the other 2 on here, or 3. I don't know.
Mr. Mayor, I do not show that the sidewalk snow removal ones are on the assessment.
Yeah, I don't either. So, I don't think that's an issue. I think we got one issue here, and that's, I don't know where the other ones came from, so. Bonnie, if you want to just address,
No, I didn't pay it.
I don't show that one was on
the only one I see is the tree one, so let's get organized here, and let's go with the tree one, and that's,
So we're going to just forget the other 2, I won't be assessed.
well, they aren't on there, so I don't know what you do. Did you look, anybody else look through it? I can't find it on there.
This is a document that we received in the office today showing the 2 snow removal items that are remaining after all items were paid as of Friday at 5 o'clock. That was a sheet that we received today, which shows only 2 snow removals.
That's all we're talking about.
But these,
But they aren't yours. They're not in your name.
all the rest have been paid, or?
That's the document that we got today that says that the rest of them have been paid.
I didn't pay ours.
Russ Fox.
Okay.
Russ
How many
Fox brought
people are
them.
here on this item? Would it, how inconvenient, and I really do seriously apologize to you for this, would it be inconvenient if you come back next Monday? Pardon? If you want to take testimony, but I mean, I'd just get this thing straightened out. I'm confused on this whole thing, and I'd rather go back and do it right than do it wrong, and I really apologize for this. Pardon? Would you come up, please? Excuse me. Please come up there. Because I'm even deeper in confusion right now. This has been turned in, and we've got other ones on there that have been paid. I don't know where
The
we're at.
property that Carol Hansen asked me to step in for tonight is 1001 West 11th Street for snow removal. And if the ordinance is 48 hours before they'll come out and do anything, the bill states the first complaint came in at
And
the
and again,
15th.
excuse me, and I don't mean to cut you off.
Okay.
I please accept this as a sincere apology. This is really confusing. And the sheet I have here, but this says Lincoln County, and it's just got 2 pieces of property that evidently were not taken care of, and so that's out there. So I would really respectfully ask the council, this needs to get straightened out big time. And why don't we just defer the whole issue?
Are you proposing that we should defer both 7 and 8 then?
I think, let's see, is 8 the same thing?
It's mowing and weeds.
Yeah, I would make that motion first, really, because I don't know where we're at on this.
I do have the Hanson property here, that was on the assessment roll, we didn't have that file.
And this is frustrating to me, really. And I apologize to all the people who are down here tonight. But I just, until we get it straightened out and come back with the right sheets, it's difficult to do. What's the wishes of the council?
Do we have a motion on the floor?
No, we don't. I didn't get a second in yours, it was just second.
Yeah, I did have a second.
Good. Let's see who's here for this.
Mr. Mayor, can we maybe ask for raising the hands of who's here for these 2 items?
How many on 7 or 8, on either one of them? How many are here? We've got you, Bonnie, and we've got this gentleman.
Okay.
Is that the only 2 that are either items 7 or 8?
Yep. Move to defer till next week.
7, 8.
Kavanaugh.
And we've got a motion by Costello, seconded by Kavanaugh, that we defer items 7 and 8 until the 17th of September. Further discussion? Not all in favor of that motion to defer items 7 and 8 until the 17th of September will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
No.
Litz?
No.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benega?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jamison?
Yes.
That motion carries. We have deferred items 7 and 8 till September 17th. Thank you all for your patience on that issue. Item number 9.
Item number 9 is a resolution approving the special assessment roll for the Main Street Business Improvement District in the city of Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
Good evening, Erica Beck with the City Planning Department. Just like to start off by thanking Main Street Sioux Falls, of which Dan Stadema is in the audience tonight to speak with you if you have any questions for him. But basically, I just wanted to thank them because this is what the bid assessment is for, is to provide operational funding or a portion of operational funding to Main Street Sioux Falls for specific projects that they complete within downtown. I'll just give you a little bit of background on the Business Improvement District, but the bid assessments are authorized under state law. They were established in Sioux Falls in 1989. The assessment is renewed once every 3 years. A notice of hearing is required by state statute and was included in the Argus Leader in mid-August. All downtown property owners that were impacted received 2 letters from the city. one from the City Finance Department notifying them of the public hearing, and then one from the City Planning Department, inviting them to attend one of two meetings that were held in conjunction with Main Street Sioux Falls, giving downtown property owners an opportunity to come and ask questions about the bid. As a result of those meetings and then conversations that Councilmember Kavanaugh had with one gentleman in particular downtown, we will, over the next year, be reviewing our bid ordinance to consider assessment rate changes to subsidized housing that's located within downtown. The current assessment for the bid is $1 per $1,000 of land value and $1.50 per $1,000 of building value. This rate has not changed since 1989 when the bid was first started in Sioux Falls. There's also a cap on all assessments of $200 per land value and $1,500 per building value. Exemptions include single-family homes and duplexes that are located within the downtown bid boundary, as well as industrial land uses. They are all exempt. Residential properties whose sole use are for residential purposes are assessed at half the rate. In conclusion, again, Mr. Dan Stadema is here from Main Street Sioux Falls to answer any questions that you might have for him, and I'd certainly answer any questions that you have for me.
Questions of Erica Kermit?
Yeah, Erica, how many people in the bid area are against this?
We had one gentleman, as I stated earlier, who had some concerns because he owns a subsidized housing property downtown. I don't think he was necessarily against paying any of the bid. He just wanted us to reconsider how we assess his property, for instance, because we do have residential properties whose sole use are residential, assessed at half the rate. However, his property is more of a mixed-use property, so it has office spaces on the main floor and housing above. And we did tell him, we did work with him and advise him that we would take into consideration over the next couple of months, perhaps amending our ordinance to accommodate his request.
Yeah, I guess, you know, I'm always concerned about this bid because the bid really is the city taxing for the benefit of a private organization, Main Street Sioux Falls. So I'm very, very concerned about using the taxing power of the city to benefit a private organization. You know, I would feel better about this whole thing if we had a petition of the landowners and property owners downtown saying they want this, because I suspect there's a number of businesses that really don't want this at all. Have you ever thought about getting a petition to show really how many people really want this?
No, we haven't, but actually, as a result of the two meetings that we had roughly 14 people that attended those meetings. There was a gentleman there with his wife who's owned property in downtown Sioux Falls for a number of years, and he said that in the 1970s, when downtown, you know, we had the pedestrian mall on Phillips Avenue, and they were just starting this downtown club, and they were talking about how to raise money to host events downtown and to do streetscape beautification projects. They decided to make up a donation fund to such a thing. And unfortunately, people just, you know, they would forget about it, and it was very hard for their downtown club to actually budget for anything. So one thing that the bid does allow is it allows Main Street Sioux Falls to actually be able to budget a year in advance, which any good business does, and so they can actually provide, you know, the specific activities, projects that they do fund. So I think without having the actual bid and knowing how much they were going to be getting from year to year to year, it'd be very difficult for them to actually accomplish anything.
Further questions of Erica? Others that wish to address the council on number 9? Not? Is there a
I move
motion?
for approval, Knutson.
Knutson moved. Is there a second? Brown seconds. Further comments? Seeing no further comments,
Yes.
all in favor of the motion to approve item
Comment,
number 9,
please.
vote yes. Those opposed, vote
I have a
abstain.
comment, please.
Oh, go ahead, excuse me.
Right. Yeah, I'm obviously going to be voting against this because, once again, I don't think it's good practice to have the city using its taxing power to benefit a private organization, coupled with the fact that there are probably a fair number of people in the downtown area who probably would prefer not having this. Now, if everybody in the downtown area wants this, I would be more than happy to vote for it, but I don't think that's the case.
Okay, further comments, Pat?
I've just asked Councilor Staggers if he's had any contact with any business owners downtown that are specifically protested this process.
Well, in the past several years when we've dealt with this issue before, there have been some comments made here that there are some people that really aren't totally in favor of this at all. Now, also being realistic, you know, I suspect there's some people that, you know, want to get along with their fellow business people downtown and don't want to make a big deal of this. But at the same time, they're against it. So once again, I think the most ideal situation would be to just make this totally voluntary. You know, if everybody in downtown Sioux Falls really wants this, then they'll voluntarily give it. And we don't have to pass this resolution this evening.
Further comments?
See, the concern is that not everybody really wants it.
Got a motion?
If I might, I understand that maybe some don't, but I mean, has anybody specifically called you and said that they didn't want to be included on that bid?
Not this year, no, not this year. Because I think there's probably the attitude, this has been around since 1989, what's the use, just go along.
Okay, we've got a motion been made and seconded to approve item number 9. Further comments? I see no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Benninga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 9 has been approved. 7 yes, 1 no. Item number 10.
Item number 10 is a resolution vacating North Markey Avenue from the south property line of Lot 1A, Tract 4, Tickman Addition, to the south property line of Tract 6, Markey Addition.
Good evening, Chad Hebe, Office of Public Works, Engineering Division. This portion of Markey Avenue is west of Interstate 29, north of LodgeNet, between Tickman Street and Innovation Street. The right-of-way is unimproved. A utility easement will be maintained if the right-of-way is vacated. Williams Pipeline has an 80-foot pipeline easement in Markey Avenue that prohibits construction over the pipeline. The plat for Markey Avenue was filed in 1974. At that time, the utility, the pipeline was in the ground. At the time of platting, this area was platted as right-of-way. A neighborhood meeting was held on August 28th. There were no neighbors in attendance. The petitioner has complied with engineering's right-of-way vacation policy, and engineering recommends approval.
Questions of Chad? Others that wish to address the council on item number 10? Motion by the council?
Move for approval, Jamison.
Jamison moved. Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Let's second it. Further comments on that motion? See no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve item 10, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present voted. Item 10 has been approved 8-0. Item 11.
Item 11 is a resolution vacating West 34th Street from South Prairie Avenue to South Summit Avenue.
It'll be noted that Councilmember Jamison will be excused from item number 11. Go ahead, Chad. Benninga. Sorry.
This portion of 34th Street is south of Augustana College, 1 block east of the Elman Center. The right-of-way is in an improved urban section. A utility easement will be maintained. Our Savior's Lutheran Church proposes to revise the entrance to their church and parking lot. The church owns the property on the north side of 34th Street, and all but one of the properties on the south side of 34th Street. At this time, they're in the progress of acquiring that one property they do not own. A neighborhood meeting was held on August 22nd. 5 neighbors and 7 church representatives were in attendance. No concerns were raised regarding the street vacation. The petitioner has complied with engineering's right-of-way vacation policy, and engineering recommends approval.
Questions?
Yes. Chad, I'm just concerned about that one property that they don't own at this time. They're trying to acquire. Do you know if the property owner is in favor of it?
I'm going to,
Okay.
I believe there's representatives from the church here that should be able to answer any further questions.
Hi, Jeff Hazard,
431 North Phillips Avenue. Oak Hazard Architects were working with the church on their expansion. I have a letter here that was written by that other property owners indicating their approval of the plans to vacate the street. Friendly relationship between the two property owners, Our Savior's Lutheran Church and this other property owner. Both of them signed the petition in favor of the vacation. The vacation is very important to the church to further their plans for expansion. It's really a way to keep a significant church in the core of the community, whereas otherwise they would have to move to a perimeter location in order to achieve their goals. So happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Jeff. Questions? Others who wish to address the council on item number 11? Is there a motion by the council?
Move to approve.
Brown moved, and Litz seconded. Was it Litz seconded? Yep. Further comments on the motion to approve? Seeing none, all in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh?
Yes.
Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 11 has been approved. Item 12.
Item 12 is a resolution advising and giving consent to the appointment of Don Hill, effective November 19th, 2007.
Jennifer Holson, Human Resources. This is a resolution giving advice and consent to the mayor's appointment of Fire Chief to Don Hill, and he is in the audience this evening.
Questions of Jennifer on item 12? Others that wish to address the council on item 12? Not. Is there a motion?
Move for approval, Benninga.
Benninga moves. Is there a second?
Second, Costello.
Costello seconded. Costello was seconded. Further comments? See no further comments. All in favor of the motion to approve, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh? Knutson?
Yes.
Litz?
Yes.
Staggers?
Yes.
Benninga?
Yes.
Brown?
Yes.
Costello?
Yes.
Jameson?
Yes.
All members present voted 7 yes, 1 excused. Item 12 has been approved. Now we're at item number 5.
Item number 5 is a resolution adopting the budget for the fiscal year ending December 31st, 2008.
Gene Rowan, Horse Director of Finance, you have before you the mayor's budget for 2008. It is a total budget of $357 million in revenue and $362 million in expenses. That includes all funds, including all of the enterprise funds, and that's why it may look like it's not balanced, but it is. In the general fund, where the council adopted a resolution that the budget should be balanced, it is. For 2008 at $110 million in revenue and $110 million in proposed expenses. This budget, I should remind you of the process that was really used this year. It was really an iteration of what we started last year, and that is the full involvement of the staff and directors and the mayor in trying to find the best solution to get the most benefit for the resources we had available. There was literally thousands of hours of staff time, director's time, and mayor's time put into the development of these numbers and the allocation of the resources that we had. The real key to this is this was not done by any kind of majority ballot or anything like that. The end result was reached by consensus. Everyone agreed that this is the directors was the one consensus group. All the directors agreed that this was the best solution that we could come up with. Was everyone happy or pleased? I'd say probably most everyone was not. To me, that's a good indication that maybe we have got a very good solution, because no one is really happy or enthusiastic about it, but it is by far what we think is the best solution that could be arrived at with the resources available. With that,
Questions of Gene on item number 5? If not, before we get into the amendments and what we have before us, why don't we get is there a motion to just to move and second, then we can get for discussion purposes?
So moved, Benninger.
Benninger moved, and second, did you say, did you second? Or Jameson second, excuse me. Okay, we've got the motion before us that's been made and seconded. Now, are there any amendments? You want to just start? Let's just start.
Mr.
We have,
Mr.
everybody's
Mayor?
got the packet, right? We'll start right with number 1. There's a total of 32. Go ahead.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, during the informational, we talked about the reading of the amendments, and the council chair said that you would be the person ultimately making the decision about who's going to read the amendments, whether the assistant city clerk or the council person that has the amendment. And there was some support to allow the council person who has the amendment to actually read it. And I guess I would encourage that, because there's one thing that I've done with my amendments that I have not done in the past. And that is, in the past, I simply had the amendments from the finance department. And sometimes the amendments were not really clear as to what it was dealing with. So what I did this time around is I took the amendments from the finance department and then I modified them to make them absolutely clear what was going on. And so I guess at this time I'm requesting that the council members who have amendments simply be able to read those.
You know, and I respect what you're saying on that, council member, but when you talk about that you may have changed them, I mean, I'd rather have the clerk read them so they are in the entirety of as they come to the clerk's office, so that we don't have any ambiguity and it's a clear description. And at this point, I really have the chair's ruling that we will let the clerks read the amendments, because that way we keep everything in sync with everybody. So I just ask if you would.
If I can just ask one more question. We did this with the CIP several weeks ago, and now we're going to be doing it tonight. In the future, at other meetings, when we have amendments, are we going to continue doing that? Having the assistant city clerk read them?
If you make an amendment from the floor, but when you have a written amendment that comes in, for instance, when we talk about the first amendment we have, I mean, it reads what has been submitted to the clerk's office so that it goes into the official record of what we're keeping. So we just ask that we stay on tune with that so that we're all clear to what we want to do. Now, obviously, just like on the first one that we have here, if there's a second, we'll have conversation on it. If there isn't, then it dies for the lack of a second. So we just ask you to respectfully to do this.
So to clarify, in the future, when we have city council meetings, if we have amendments that are presented before the meeting, then the assistant city clerk will always read the amendment. And then any amendments that might be spontaneous, then we will allow to read those.
Any amendment made on the floor, like we
Yes, right.
and council member, you know that we have done that prior to this, where one of the council members have had an amendment, and it has to be made from the floor, and then we just ask the clerk to transcribe to get that to the amendment to what the maker of the amendment has proposed, and so that's obviously the way it is. But if we had an amendment that had been submitted, we would ask the clerk to read that amendment. So,
okay.
Thank you very much. So let's get started here with number 1, and everybody's got page 1 through 32, and we'll just start with 1, and we'll just go until the end of it.
Amendment number 1. A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Costello to amend the 2008 Entertainment Tax Fund expenditure budget by increasing Department 67 Convention Center Professional Services Other long-term booking by $150,000, changing the amount from $0 to $150,000. Page 187 of the detailed budget.
Excuse me, a second?
Second, Litson.
Let's second it. Okay. Open for discussion.
Mr. Mayor and Council, this is pretty self-explanatory. This provides money to pay the CVB for booking the long-term contracts for the convention center. It's paid for out of the entertainment tax.
Any other questions on, go ahead, Kermit.
Yes, on this amendment, I'm going to be voting against it. And one reason I'm going to be voting against it is because at the last city council meeting, I was given wrong information on this $150,000. Now, when that happened, there were also other members in the audience that were aware that this was wrong information. But after the meeting, there was no attempt to let me know that it was wrong information. Nobody tried to contact me. Nobody tried to give me a call. So I think it's important that we get accurate information, and if we, I understand there are mistakes that are made, but then to make sure these mistakes are corrected in a timely fashion.
Okay, thank you. We've got a motion made.
I would just like to comment that I can't believe I just heard a council member say that they're going to penalize the Convention and Visitors Bureau because somebody made a mistake, and then also for the record, that individual sent out a correction and an email, I believe it was the next day. So I just find that astonishing.
Well, I think you'll find it even more astonishing that I'm the one that learned about it, and then that information was sent back to the finance department, and then at that point in time, we had the or the statement being made that a mistake had been made. I'll let you see the complete emails if you want to.
Okay, we've got a motion, Kevin.
I'll be objecting to this motion as well, not for the reasons stated before, but my concern is with the source of funds, entertainment tax. We should not be using entertainment tax to fund this. The entertainment tax was specifically designed to take care of Washington Pavilion, Convention Center, pay for the public indebtedness, and take care of the operations. If we have money laying around in an entertainment tax, we should be using it to pay down our bonds.
Okay, thank you, Bob. James?
Well, I would remind the council that entertainment tax dollars goes to operating both of the Convention Center and the Washington Pavilion, and is not specific as whether promotion is one of those, and I consider this a vital item for the promotion of the city of Sioux Falls.
If I might respond, that's true, but the entertainment tax has never been enough to take care of debt service and operation. That's why we throw in extra sales tax to supplement that.
I would just ask the city attorney to weigh in on whether or not this is appropriate use of the entertainment tax funds.
If I might, Mr. Mayor. Yes, it would be an appropriate use of the entertainment tax funds because the entertainment tax funds can be used either for the construction or operation of qualifying facilities that would include the Washington Pavilion and the Convention Center.
Thank you. Other questions? We've got the first motion here before us has been made, and there's been a second to that motion. Further discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion to amend will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
No.
Knutson.
No.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Benninga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
All members present have voted. That amendment has been approved, 5 yes and 3 no. Let's go to the second amendment.
Amendment 2, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Costello to amend the 2008 sanitary landfill expenditure budget by decreasing temporary and overtime costs, employee costs. These decreases are requested by Public Works. Sanitary landfill budget can be found on page 285 of the detailed budget. The total of these decreases amounts to over $100,000, and there will be an overhead for you to view.
Is there a second to that motion?
Second, Jamison.
Jamison seconded. Okay, further discussion?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
If I might, these costs are no longer necessary as they would be duplicate, or they're not necessary because of the new hires within the enterprise funds.
Okay. Does everybody, any other questions, any other comments on that motion? Not all in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benninga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
That motion has been approved. The next motion.
Proposed amendment number 3, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Brown to amend by moving the 2008 general fund budgeted dollars to support performance performance measurement program by increasing City Council Professional Services General Fund 100-0901-410-2202 by $10,400 and by decreasing CVB Professional Services General Fund 167-470-22.26 by $10,400. This amendment has a neutral effect on the general fund.
Is there a second to that motion? Kevin, okay, so we got a motion and second, go ahead.
This amendment would fund the tool to kick off our performance measurement efforts. We've had some presentations in the past about what performance measurements are. The mayor endorsed them in his budget address. Councilor Knudsen pointed out to me today, we haven't heard much about it lately. Just for the public's benefit, this will help kick off this effort. So we have scientific research so we can know for certain what customer and taxpayers' expectations are, and maybe more importantly, what their willingness is to pay for them. Just a few examples of how it would be used. For example, street plowing. Do citizens want it done in 12 hours, 24 hours, or 36 hours? What are they willing to pay for? Are they okay with police taking reports over the phone, or do they prefer to see them in person? An issue we've talked about quite a bit going forward, do we want the policy on parks to be within a half mile or greater distances as the city grows of every residence? These are answers that take in-depth scientific research, and we've looked at companies that can be able to help us to do that. We had an initial team that was set up with Finance Director Eugene Roanhorst, Tom Huber from Finance, Mark Cotter from Public Works, Don Kearney from Parks, and City Clerk Deborah Owen and myself. And that is a growing task force, in fact, and we would like to get this research done in early '08 so it can be implemented in the budget process for '09. Now, why did I choose the money to come from the CVB dollars? You know, I'm a marketing person. That's what I do for a living, and so I'm a big believer in marketing this city. This isn't about a slam against the CVB. Terry Ellis Schmidt and I have visited about this. It's certainly not a slam against her. I'm a big supporter of her and what she's done, and I do believe that the money they get goes to good use. Every city department, and I consider this a quasi-city department, but every city department is very strapped right now. However, the CVB recognizes that it gets more money than it anticipates each year from the lodging tax. I have a handout for the councilors on that. Last year, for example, it received $64,000 more than it thought it would get from the lodging tax. Since 2002, it has received $193,000 more than it thought it would receive. So that is the reason it came from there. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer it about performance measurements or the funding source for this, and I would ask for your support.
Thank you. Kermit and then Bob Jameson.
One of my primary concerns about a poll is the questions that are going to be asked. Maybe I'm getting ahead of the game a little bit here, but do you have any insight as to how we're going to, are we going to have some input, the city council members, on these questions?
Absolutely. City Clerk Deborah Owen and Gene Roanhorst have interviewed one agency, and then we also visited with another group, a regional company that does this for other cities as well. The council, the entire city would have input on this. The company that we most recently interviewed, they do this with a number of cities. They've got this down to a science. And in fact, it's about, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Deborah, about a 20-minute survey that they do, so it's very in-depth. Would be a sample size of roughly 400 people, I believe.
And so we, once again, as city council members, will have some input as to
Absolutely. And I would expect, this is just my opinion, but I would expect that we would go out for an RFP when we are prepared to do this.
Bob Jameson.
And I think this council budgeted some dollars already for this survey to kick it off, so this really adds to it so we could do an in-depth scientific survey. One comment, we want to make sure that we understand this is coming from general fund dollars and not from room tax dollars.
That's correct. It is general fund dollars.
Other questions? Any others that wish to address it? Go ahead. You may come forward. Give your name and address, please.
My name is Jim Entman, and I'm the past chair of the CVB. And my address, I own J&L Harley-Davidson here in Sioux Falls. And our address up there is 2909 South St. or 2601 West 60th Street North. Too many addresses to remember. First of all, Vernon, thank you. I understand the challenges for all of us, but I do have a statement here I'd like to read and make a couple of comments. A number of years ago, the CVB worked with the city to solidify its budget needs. An agreement was reached at that time. The city would guarantee the base budget of $345,000, plus give the CVB everything the room tax generated. Several discussions centered around the fact that this would be the incentive that the Bureau needed to sell, sell, sell. Increased room tax meant more money for the CVB to do the things needed to help further the economic development of the city of Sioux Falls through promoting the visitor business. The Bureau, along with the hotels, have done just that. That is why you see a projected increase in room tax. It's a projected increase. There is no guarantee. And now you're proposing to take away from the Bureau and use it for a projected totally unrelated to increasing visitor business, even though it's coming out of the general fund dollars. We don't oppose the research. We oppose dipping into CVB dollars for a project that will not drive increased visitor business. In 2006, the visitor industry generated approximately $300 million in direct spending and economic impact for the city of Sioux Falls. Taking away the proposed $10,400 could force us to cut programs that you expect. Now, we, the volunteer citizen leadership of the Sioux Falls Convention and Visitors Bureau, believe that the citizens of Sioux Falls are getting more than their money's worth from our budget of $835,000. We are competing with cities like Rapid City with a CVB budget of $2,162,000. Fargo, North Dakota with $1,096,000. Rochester, Minnesota, $1,650,000. And Sioux City with $2,083,686. I, too, am in business, and I am in the marketing business. And trust me, and times are tough for all retailers. We're seeing reduced margins in all the products that we sell. We see a lot of pressures throughout, as the city does. In my business in particular, when I take a look at our marketing budgets, I always take a look at what the impact is going to be as we go forward into the future. We don't want to be left behind, and we need to continue to project ourselves as a city of growth. We need to project ourselves with all the needs, from police to fire and everything else, that we need to make our city grow so that we can appeal to our visitors as they come into the city, and that we can appeal for our young people that are going to continue to live and work in our community. The CVB must continue to be diligent in their sales efforts. Less budget means less ability to sell the city in what is a very aggressive and competitive industry today. We cannot lessen our efforts, or we will have less business in the future, which means less economic impact for the city of Sioux Falls. The CVB is a sales organization that the city established to drive economic development through the visitor business. We have honored our responsibilities to the utmost degree. We now that you reconsider your proposal. We came to you earlier this year, and we had a lot of discussion about our proposal to operate the convention center, which we were asked to do. In that, we had a significant higher dollar amount that we requested. And in good faith, we did take and negotiate. We reconsidered what we were looking at, and we managed to reduce our request at that point in time. With that, I guess I've end my comments, and I'd like to thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Questions of Jim?
Jim, I'm curious in your experience. I mean, where do you see this going, funding of the CVB long term? What are our options? What's our best goals to, I guess, adequately fund the CVB?
Well, I think there's got to be some concerted efforts on the part of the organization, the CVB, and the city to look at funding opportunities through the state of South Dakota, what we can do to get our funding that way. A number of CVBs have separated from their respective Chamber of Commerces throughout the country. And then it becomes a case of we go out and we seek memberships. You know, but we have a very strong business community here in the city of Sioux Falls. And while we do get our funding from you, we do fall underneath the Chamber of Commerce also. And for us to look at going out right now and soliciting memberships, you're going to force small businesses to consider who do they belong to. Where do they get the most impact? Do we get it from belonging to the Chamber, or do we get it from belonging to the CVB? You got to draw the line. There's only so many dollars, as we all know, out there to draw from. And again, I come back to the fact that we are all seeing reduced margins, extreme competition throughout the industry, and there's a lot of challenges with gas and fuel costs and all those different kinds of things.
How practical is it to form a business improvement district and have either room fixed fee or something of that nature? Isn't that fairly common with
Yes, it
the
is. I know
CBBs?
Rapid City, I believe, did something along that line last year. Quite honestly, we've been discussing it and talking about it. I think there's going to be some efforts that way, but we have not, everybody's concerned with the existing budgeting process that we have at hand right now, so we need to explore those avenues. It's my understanding that we're going to start doing that now, or we already have.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm strongly in favor of that, and I strongly encourage you to explore those avenues.
Further questions of Jim? Not, thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Otherwise, come forward, give your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Tammy Bantama with the Holiday Inn Express, and I'm also the chairwoman for the Lodging Association here in Sioux Falls. And as Councilman Brown mentioned, part of the funding for the CVB does come from the general fund, but a large portion of it comes from that tax that the hotels charge our guests. We fund a large portion of the CVB, but we all know that the impact of those visitors does not just go to the hotels. It goes to the entire city of Sioux Falls. We are only asking that $345,000 of the general fund is provided for the CVB to help us go out and market Sioux Falls, bring more people here, because the more people we do have come into Sioux Falls, the more money spent, honestly, the larger your general fund becomes. Also in marketing, I did some figuring. With a budget of $800,000 in a $300 million impact, that's for every dollar spent, that's $386. What company wouldn't jump for joy to get that kind of return on their investment? On a $10,000 expense for us, that's $3 million impact over the next several years. We are going out and marketing not only for next year, but for the next 5 years. So imagine the impact that $10,000, where it doesn't seem very large right now, can do over the next 5 years. Also, if you take $10,000 this year, what are you going to want next year out of that fund? Because it's an easy one to target, because the hotels keep generating more and more, like you said, every year. Part of that is rate increase. I can speak on behalf of the hotels that average hotel rates have gone up over $20 a night right now. That has a large impact on the taxes that we're paying into the CVB right now. We've just finally caught up from Omaha and Minneapolis and the other large cities. The rates have gone up. The other thing is we have talked about the bid process. Honestly, the hotels would be all for it. Our fear is the people in this room would be the first ones in line trying to get that money. And we know that it would have to come down to sitting in this room deciding where all that money goes, because it's a large amount of money, but everybody wants a part of it. So we've been afraid to do it, to be honest.
Questions, Tim? Thank you. Oh, Kurt, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned the bid, and I think you realize where I'm coming from on the bid. I understand there's a lot of small motels in Sioux Falls who would not support that at all, but it's basically the larger institutions that do. So I guess I'm very concerned that, once again, we don't want to get something like we have down Main Street, Sioux Falls, where there might be a lot of people in favor, but there are people that are also against it.
Right. And that's why we have not pursued it at this time, because it is a large amount of money, and obviously Parks Department and there's several other departments that would like a piece of that amount of money. So all we're asking for is the $345,000.
Thanks, Tim. Other questions? None. Others?
Good evening. Tom Bosch, General Manager of the Holiday Inn City Center, 100 West 8th Street. And I just wanted you to also consider, and once again, as Jim and Tammy mentioned, I am not opposed to certainly the study being done, but look at the dollars-wise. And I have been at our hotel for about 10 years and was really deeply involved in the discussions that we went ahead and that we had several years ago as far as looking at funding of the Convention and Visitors Bureau. Where are we going to get those dollars from? And the discussion that occurred was that, and I even posed the question, what is going to happen someday if we enjoy, and the industry is prospering and we increase? Is the city, if we're over 100,000, is the city going to look at that base 345,000 and drop it to 245 because that $100,000 is there? And really was given a vote of confidence, no, that is not going to certainly go ahead and occur. And I've been in this industry, the hotel industry, for 20 years, and I can tell you that we have ups and downs, almost like any other business. And we are in the upswing right now. But what happens in a situation, and you talk to any hotel in Sioux Falls or across the nation, when September 11th went ahead and occurred, that deeply affected the travel industry. Our budgets were cut. This Convention and Visitors Bureau funding was really slashed because there was not appropriate dollars there. So what had to go ahead and occur? Terry and the staff had to go in, had to cut programs to marketing, and that is not the answer. As Tammy mentioned, the return on investment is so great. And looking at that, we say we're talking this $10,000, and as Tammy said, my fear is there too. What is going to be next? And I know that there is a matter of, in a situation where we do have dollars that we have in reserve, which are very, very important. And if you talk to any industry analysts out there in the hotel market, in the tourism market, they will tell you that they're planning on almost the second, third quarter of 2008, we are going to start to see a drop in our business that we're going to go ahead and we're going to have, and not necessarily those dollars are going to be there. And we ask that you just uphold, and not necessarily yourselves personally, but what the council said before. Hey, if you want to add these new programs, go ahead and add them. That's wonderful. But you go ahead and you pay for them, whether it be individually, and that's something else that hotels have gone ahead and done that we haven't done before, and other attractions. We're paying for certain fees and investing certain dollars to put out promotional pieces currently. We are being a partner and partnering with the public and the private dollars that are going ahead and are coming in. So I just ask that you look at, and once again, not against the study at all, that Vernon, that you're proposing, but that you look for the dollars somewhere else. We need those dollars and to utilize those dollars in order to bring more and more people into Sioux Falls, and it's a win-win situation when that goes ahead and that occurs. So thank you.
Thanks, Tom. Questions, Tom? Others? Seeing no one ahead, we've got a motion that's been made and seconded to approve the motion for us.
Mr. Mayor, I think I have a substitute motion, and I need to explain it first. And I certainly agree with the fact that we need to do performance measurement. I think Councilman Brown is on the right path. However, when I look at the compelling arguments that I've heard tonight about where this money should be coming from, I do agree that we ought to look in another location. My amendment would be, and I'm going to discuss this just for a second, is that we're proposing to add an internal auditor that's going to cost us about $5,500 a month, according to the next item. That internal auditor position has not been filled, and we're taking that position, frankly, from the finance department, and that position has not been filled for the entire year of 2007, or since July of 2007. My supportive of or revised amendment to this proposal would be that we take the $5,500 a month, or $10,400, out of the internal audit proposal and fund the performance measurement from that item.
So you take from the next motion we have.
We have $63,600 proposed for that internal audit position.
So
we have not fulfilled that position. It would, if we waited 2 months, we would be able to use the performance measurement as part of not only our internal audit function, but also be able to take the money from the general fund.
So you take 10,004. Is it 10,004 your motion? Is it
10,004, correct.
Point of order.
Yes, sir.
It hasn't been, we haven't transferred it over to the internal audit yet. So
I understand
really,
that.
it would just be coming out of finance then, right?
Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
I'm throwing the balloons in the air, so
I'll second it for the
Okay.
purpose of discussion. So, and I have a question for the maker.
Sure.
So what you're saying is that we delay the hiring of the third internal audit position for 2 months, 3 months, whatever amount that, okay.
if your estimate's right, Kevin, and it probably is close, that means we'd only defer the hiring of that position for 2 months.
Thank you.
Any questions on that?
Well,
Go ahead.
I think that's an appealing substitute motion, but also, too, we do have some upcoming amendments here near the end where we're just simply subsidizing these private organizations with all this free money that we could very easily come up with double or triple the amount here of $10,000 easy. So I guess I would hope that maybe we would take some of these later amendments and just divert it to the CVB instead of these other organizations.
My only comment, Mr. Staggers, would be that at this point, I do have a second for my motion, and I don't believe you even have a motion on the floor.
No, I don't, but see, I was commenting on yours and making a good suggestion why people should vote against it.
Gene, do you want to respond to that motion that we have?
I think like Councilman Costello pointed out, the money is still actually sitting in the Finance Department, and there are a couple of things I'd like to have the council consider in their decision. First thing is the Finance Department budget has gone up by 1.7% over 2006, 2007, and 2008. And the budget actually in 2008, the budget is actually going down because of the netting of revenue that we're getting on the Metro Communications, where the Finance Department has 1/2 FTE that they're being compensated for. It's actually usually more like 3/4 of an FTE right now on that funding. When you throw the revenue side in, it's actually going down in 2008. We've been working hard at realigning duties, and the question about the position that's not filled right now, we got that resignation on June 20th. It was effective July 1st. And right now we have made an agreement or come into an agreement with that person that did resign is on a contractual basis with us on a part-time basis to carry part of the work that they had while we're still looking for another person to fill that position. What we're actually doing is working with HR to examine duties and that are being carried out by this vacant position and how we ought to realign that. The big thing being we have got to have some help in purchasing. Right now our purchasing manager is just plain maxed out. And in order to keep going with the purchasing operation, we're going to have to do something. And we need some time right now before we fill that position, like I say, to work with HR and get things lined up there. The FTE have not changed in 2 years, and during that same period of time, we took on essentially 2.5 FTE, but in reality it's coming, it's about 2 3/4 to 3 FTE right now. The first thing we took on was the licensing for liquor, malt beverage, and peddlers. That position was moved over to the position was not moved, but the person handling that was moved over to the Finance Department, and it was absorbed by the Finance Department. The person that managed CIP when it was in Public Works, that person moved up to the Finance Department, and again, we absorbed that in our existing FTE, so we did not add an FTE or move anything out of Public Works. And then the last one is the person that is now handling Metro Communications, and that has been a really more of a task than we had thought at the time it would be to handle that position. But that's what gets our net from 07 to 08 to actually go down when you net the revenue in there. So it's not like we don't have things to do in finance. You know, in a couple of other things I could point out. If you start to add up some of the stuff now, we've got a lot going on in the budgeting process. There's a whole staff that does that, and most of you are aware of the time it takes to do that. But just to give you some other concepts of what goes on in the finance department, we do about 10,000 receipts of one sort or another that come into the finance department annually. We do almost 10,000 invoices that are issued by the finance department. AP checks written.
Mr. Chairman, point of order. Are we talking about Amendment 4 or Amendment 5?
We're talking Amendment 4.
Perhaps this discussion would be better taken up when we talk about Amendment 5.
I agree with that. So on this one here, what happens, Gene, if let's just say, for instance, if the next one wouldn't pass, then where would that money come from?
The money, where would the money come from?
Yeah.
We would have to not fill the open position that we have, which would considerably cramp the workload that's being done in the finance department right now.
Okay.
Mayor?
Go ahead, Kevin.
Well, it would be the same effect regardless of where it's at. It would be delaying by 2 or 3 months, as Councilor Benninga suggests, the hiring of that individual.
Gene, you mentioned you're working with Human Resources to, I guess, reclassify, or not reclassify, but redefine some roles within the finance department. And what's your timing, or when do you think that will be complete, and when will you know that?
Well, right now, our target would be to do it within the next 90 days. It's a matter of getting the necessary analysis done as far as the tasks and that these people or this person would handle.
Further questions? Bob?
I guess a question with the amendment that's on the floor right now is ahead of the amendment that talks about the transfer from finance. Can we really do this one now, or do we have to defer this one until after the action is taken on the other amendment or the other budget amendment?
That's why I just asked that question, because I don't know. That depends what happens on the next one. What comes back to this one.
I guess my point is, and I'll be very blunt, I think in a $365 million budget, we can find $10,000 to be transferred from one line item. If I don't want to use the internal audit position, or if the finance director can come up with justification for hiring that person sooner, I'm sure that we can ask him to come back with a suggestion on how to fund that. I just don't believe that we ought to be using these funds from CVB to use our new program for performance measurement.
Yeah, I guess it's, the position looks like it's some $63,000, if I'm correct, and, roughly that's a little over $5,000 a month, and it would be just simply asking them to delay that position, the new hire, for 2 months to come up with it. I guess my question to Gerald is that, your amendment says take it out of internal audit. Well, it's not in internal audit right now, so I think shouldn't it be taken out of this finance position for now, and then if it subsequently in another motion gets moved over to internal audit, so be it. It'll just be $10,000 less.
If you want to make it that complicated, that's fine.
We got the substitute motion before us, and everybody understand. Bob Jameson.
Well, I think Pat has a legitimate question. If that position is vacant at the present time, they are accumulating some unspent funds. And maybe it would be simpler just to take it from that department at the present time and move it into the 2008 as a carryover.
I give up.
Well, I guess what would happen, if I might, what would happen if we did that, we took it out of the internal audit, and then the next motion comes up and it didn't pass? Because then we'd be taken out of our existing internal audit budget.
Got that right?
We are, if I could, I think we do have a problem using salary dollars to supplement something that's outside salary. I think isn't there a policy against doing that?
We, as department directors, cannot transfer from salary to supplement any other department, but you, as city council, can budget as you wish.
Just for clarification. Do I understand that Gerald is willing to withdraw his motion and be amenable to a substitute motion?
Yes, I am.
You withdraw? So it's okay with a second?
Yes.
Okay. That has been withdrawn. Okay.
Then I would move that we take the $10,400 out of finance for the unfilled position that exists now.
Second.
To take that into...
I hate to be the stick in the mud, but this is money from '07 versus carrying it forward to '08.
Anything that's not spent in '07 can be carried forward, I think, if it's dedicated.
I don't believe that's correct.
Jennifer?
I have a suggestion.
That'd be a great one.
I don't think you need to, you can do this without doing an amendment in 2008. There is a vacancy in the 1,000 expense class in the finance department, and they haven't filled their position yet. So as Bob said, there is savings in the 1,000 expense class. They're working towards, one of the things that we tell the departments when they have a vacancy is you look at your organization and see if you can utilize your headcount in a better way than you're currently doing from an efficiency standpoint. And they're in the process of doing that. They have not submitted a request for a job audit or a reclassification, but I do know that they are looking at taking a look at that senior accountant vacancy and determining if it can be, they're realigning the functions among their senior accountants and their accountants on the work that that person did in order to see if they can come up with a position in purchasing to help the purchasing division. That's in the process right now, but in the meantime, that senior accountant position is vacant. So that money that was budgeted is not being utilized. You could do and I don't know if this is the right term or not, supplemental transfer, appropriation transfer, whatever it is. I'm not from finance, I'm just HR. But transfer the money from that 1,000 expense class, that $10,400, to fund your study. You can do that in '07. You don't have to do it in '08. Do it in '07.
Right.
And withdraw your motion, your amendment number 3. You can take care of it in '07 with a resolution.
Mr. Mayor?
Do you want to withdraw yours?
I didn't get a second, I don't believe.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
Pat seconded it.
I'll withdraw.
You okay with that?
We need the money in '08, though.
Yeah.
That's what
I was going to say half the money is in '08, so you already have about half of it there right now.
Do the study this year.
Half that money is in '08, not in '07, unless you
How
want to
much
use
money
all
is
of that money.
we've got
We haven't done an RFP
12,000
yet. Yeah.
in this council budget for '08. So half of it would be in '07 if we did this, half would be in '08, so that won't probably work.
Okay, I tried.
I have not.
Maybe that would be a more effective solution. We do a supplemental appropriation in '07 for 10-2, start the process, and then you got the rest of it in '08.
Can we get it done?
That makes more sense to me.
We'll put that in the RFP, Gene.
Make that motion?
I would be happy to make that motion.
They would take the
Mr. Rowan.
supplemental appropriation in 2007, and that comes out of finance, the position.
Correct.
Ordinance?
Well, we have a motion on the floor still.
Well, no, because we had the one by Benega.
The original motion is
The
still.
original, we're back to the original motion, yeah, there's no doubt about that. Back to the original motion of 10,004 by decreasing CVB, that's where we're at right now. Go ahead.
Well, okay, so we could, I don't know if we have to do notices or whatever, but we could kind of agree that we're going to take this up in another council meeting to come up with the other 10,004, or can we do that tonight?
I don't think you can do that tonight on that part.
I guess your correction is supplemental appropriation would not be necessary in '07. The mayor can do that by notice for '07.
It's a process. So right now, the lay of the landscape is we got $10,400 by decreasing CVB. Any other motions? See no other motions. All in favor of that motion? Will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
I'm sorry, I'm confused on what we're doing. I'm sorry.
We're
I'm
back
spaced
to,
out.
we're back to the main motion that Councilmember Brown has on the performance measurement of taking the 10,004 to be blunt out of the CVB, so that's where it's at.
Sorry, I'm a no.
Litz.
No.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
No.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
No.
Jamison.
Yes.
Munson's a no. That one fails.
It's tied. She said no. It's tied 4-4.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
I think you have to break the tie.
I did.
Oh, what did you
I
say?
voted no.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Proposed Amendment 4 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Kavanaugh, and there's an item on the overhead for you, by moving 2008 general fund budget funds to transfer the vacant accountant position, salary and benefits in the Finance Department to the Internal Audit Division. This position was vacated in the Finance Department in July of 2007 and has not been filled. This amendment will have a neutral effect on the general fund, and the details are on the overhead.
Is there a second?
Second, let's.
Let's second it. Okay, open for discussion.
Thank you. As you all know, Council took over the internal audit function almost 2 years ago now. It was previously housed in the City Finance Department. They had an FTE of 3 people. One of the reasons Gene talks about how their budget has gone down and their FTE has stayed the same, that's one of the reasons. What we're trying to accomplish here, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Audit Committee, is to ensure that we have hired a lead internal auditor, we have a second auditor, we have established an audit charter, we have gotten an approved 2007 audit plan, and we will be working on a 2008 audit plan. One of the things that I think is critical is that we have a fully staffed and effective audit team. The International Association of Internal Auditors has a guideline that says 1 audit person for every $100 million in municipal budget. Well, given that, we should be looking at our 4th internal audit position. I'm just asking for the 3rd. It's a simple matter of making sure that we have an effective and a fully staffed audit team. I would ask for your support of the amendment.
Further comments or questions? Bob James.
Further comment, I think everyone received a copy of the letter from the chair of the audit committee recommending that this be funded because they feel that in order for them to develop the internal audit program that we should have will require the 3rd person. So.
I'd like to remind this council that we did put additional audit responsibilities on that committee, or on our audit people this year, and probably it would delay some of the other things that we had in mind for that.
That work was budgeted for in their existing work plan.
Others? Vernon?
Question for Gene Roanhorse. Gene, I'm trying to remember back when we originally were putting the office together, Turtle Audit. And at that time, we were debating whether it should be in the finance department or under the council control. And at that time, I believe you had said that when you were advocating for it to be in finance, that you needed 5 positions to make it effective. Is that correct?
I think that was an off-the-hand comment that was made, yes.
Okay. Given that, I would think that 3 positions is reasonable for internal audit, so I would urge your support.
Further comments, questions? Others who wish to address the council on that motion? Seeing no one come forward, further discussion. We've got the motion been made and seconded on the motion for the internal audit. Seeing no further discussion, all in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
No.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
That motion is passed. Next.
The next amendment, motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Kavanaugh to amend by moving the 2008 general fund budgeted dollars to support a fraud hotline program by moving $2,000 from the City Council Travel Education and Training General Fund, and by decreasing the mayor's travel education and training budget general fund by $2,000 and increasing the City Council professional services by $4,000. This amendment has a neutral effect on the general fund.
Second.
Second, Litz.
Further comments on that motion?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As you may recall, several weeks back, we received one of our first reports from the internal audit team, and it had to do with a couple of review of some cash counts and some other things in the various departments. Found nothing wrong, thankfully, but one of the things that they made a very strong proposal, a very strong recommendation was to investigate and invest in a small amount of money for professionally managed, anonymous hotline that we could contract with. And one of the things that struck with me is there was a chart that they showed where you can spend tens, if not hundreds of $1,000s in staffing and audit work, and you still wouldn't produce enough. You still wouldn't produce as much as you did from an anonymous tip line. And we can do this for $4,000, folks. I would urge your support.
Questions?
Yeah, could anyone tell me, like, are there any other cities around here in the Midwest that are about our size or larger that are using such a hotline and successfully? Any help?
Councilor Knudsen, I'm sure there are. I just don't have that information at my fingertips.
Other questions? If not, we've got a motion before us. Others wish to address council. Seeing no one come forward, we've got a motion before us. All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
No.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benega.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jamison.
Yes.
That motion has been approved. Next motion.
Next motion is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Kavanaugh, and there'll be an item on the overhead for you, to amend by moving general fund budget dollars to hire 6 police officers in 2008 by increasing the police department general funds $320,658 and by decreasing all general fund MOU appropriations by 29.29% for each MOU. Details are on the overhead.
Is there a second?
Second, Litz.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If this amendment is passed, it will put us on track to meet the 2009 deadline for compliance with our 1.5 officers per thousand citizen standard. This was adopted by this council, majority of this council, in April of 2004. And using planning department estimates, we will begin calendar year 2008, this budget year that we're adopting, 10 officers below that standard. Folks, if we have any hope of actually complying with our own policy by 2009, we have to start. We cannot wait until then. I hope you'll agree that this amendment, it really demonstrates that it is not that difficult for us to do this if we in fact want to do it. These are meager amounts that are coming out of each department. To pay for this amendment, I've listed the amounts that would come out of each department. It amounts to 0.29%. That is 1/3 of 1% of their general fund appropriation. That's it. For that, we'll put ourselves on track for actually living by our policy, and we'll be putting police officers out in our neighborhoods. You should know also, and I just handed out for everyone to look at, that over the past 5 years, our city departments are not spendthrifts. They don't just blow their money and have this frenzy at the end of the year. Look at the numbers that I showed you. Over the past 5 years, our city departments have turned back, on average, 6% of their appropriated funds. I'm asking us to divert 1/3 of 1%. This is not an unreasonable proposal, and I would advocate that it is not even suffering. There is no sacrifice here. In my 7+ years on this council, I have never known when public safety was not our #1 priority. Never. I'm simply advocating that we fund our priorities. Chief Barthel, who asked for 5 officers and didn't get any, recently said the ratio is a council policy and it's their responsibility to fund it. Well, he's right. It is our responsibility. It's time for us to put our money where our policy is and prove that we actually mean something. So I would ask for your support of this amendment.
Questions?
We didn't add any officers this year, and if we don't add for next year's budget, the city will have grown by 7,000 people since we last added officers. To put that in perspective, that's like having the city of Madison and my hometown of Arlington added together, 7,000 citizens. And then there's the geographic growth. We will have added 30 lane miles of streets, stretching officers even further for response times. I believe a number of us have received emails or calls or concerns about response times and the stretching of those officers over our growing city limits. And here's the kicker. If we don't do this and we wait another year, our next opportunity to have officers on the street will be September 2009. It takes 9 months to train an officer and get them on the street. So if we don't do this, September 2009, before we see any of these officers on the street. That's if we approve officers for the 2009 budget. That's a long time to go without officers. When it comes to police, in a 911 call, or in regards to the city budget, we can't afford to wait. I urge your support of this amendment.
Bob Litz.
I do have one question that occurred to me while I was sitting here. I was going through seeing everybody that got reduced in the police department is in there getting their budget reduced by $71,590. Now, if I take $71,590 and subtract it from $320,658, I come up with $259,068. Is that the real figure?
No. Thank you for the question. The police department, being good soldiers, are taking the same hit that every other department is. But keep in mind, on average, they'll turn back 6% of their budget too.
Well, in speaking to opposition to this, I guess it's like being against motherhood and apple pie, but I've got to. I can't in good conscience sit here and watch us deprive or removed from other departments. When you look at the road miles that have been added, the road maintenance that's required of the city of Sioux Falls, the park acres that have been added, and those type things, and then we're going to take money from those departments to fund another department. I was opposed to the ratios when they were established, and I'm still opposed to them, and I think you're going to see a request that those ratios be deleted. Whether it passes or not will be another question, but I think we have to approach this with the fact that there's only so many dollars for the city of Sioux Falls. And if we're going to take from one department and give to another, it's wrong. We can't, if I remember right, 2 years ago, we hired police officers. We did not hire 3 public works at that time, and we did not hire a couple of park employees at that time so we could fund those police officers. So some of the other departments have already taken hits because of those ratios. And Bob Litz brought up something I had circled here also, that we basically take 1 full-time employee from the fire department, 1 plus full-time employee from the police department to fund this program. And if the police department has $71,590 that they can contribute this year, maybe we should have been hiring 1 additional police officer each year for the past 5 years if we have those kind of surpluses in these departments. The same for we have the same ratio problem with the fire department, but those get solved. When we build a fire station, we have to fund it, we have to man it. And I would urge you to consider the fact that this is the gain for one department at the expense of another. And public safety doesn't just happen in the fire department and the police department. It occurs on the streets, the parks, and all those other areas of the city, and you can't take one of them and separate it and say that's only the public safety. I would urge you to not vote for this amendment.
Pat?
I guess, to me, there's just some more issues at play here. And we have to think back of what's happened over the previous years where when the budgets have been proposed, they've been proposed with structural deficits. We forced the mayor to submit the budget in a balanced form, and so the cushion has been removed. The directors all will have to be much more diligent about their expenses in the final months of the year to make sure that they don't go over their allotted amount. So this cushion that's shown in these previous years isn't necessarily going to be there this year. So that's just one point. The other point that I would like to know, and I'd like to hear from Doug, what are the additional or other performance measurement tools or guidelines that we can use versus solely basing our hiring decisions or number of officers strictly on a ratio? Whenever I've heard the ratio discussed, it's always been one tool that we're going to use to make that decision. And so far, I think it's the only tool that's been considered. I would like to know what we're seeing in the number of calls, what we're seeing in the types of calls, what we're seeing in the number of calls held, the response times, and any other information you can provide to us to give us a gauge of whether or not we need more officers on the street.
Well, as you've said, there are several other factors that play into that, and I'll give you a few of those numbers. I might first start out with it's difficult to put a measure on some of the services that we provide and what sort of calls and crime do we actually prevent by our proactive work. And so by just looking at your stats or your crime rate go up, those sort of things, and that means that you need more officers, isn't necessarily the only way to judge whether or not you should have more officers on the street. A few of the other things that you were alluding to are, first off, just the number of calls. We ran some numbers today just looking at 2006 versus 2007. for the first 8 months of the year to get us through August. And last year we had 53,600 calls in that time period. So far this year we have 54,900, so we're up about 1,300 calls from 06 to 07. Another measurement tool that we use is the number of calls that we hold, and by that I mean a call that does not have an officer respond to it for more than a minute at a time. Some calls might be held for a minute, some might be held for several minutes, maybe even up to a half hour. It just depends. Calls are prioritized depending on the type of call, whether or not it's an emergency, the area of town that it might be in, and basically are placed on a list, and we go through them and work our way through the list. As other calls come in, they might move up and down that list. Looking at those numbers for this same time period so far through this year, last year we had 6,701 calls that were held in that 8 months. This year it's 6,988, so we're up about 287 calls. And the third area is our response time. And for that same time period last year was 5 minutes, 21 seconds, average response time for all calls. And so far this year it's at 5 minutes and 40 seconds for that same time period.
Can you tell me when the last time we actually, not necessarily when we hired police officers, but by the time they were completely trained and, or, you know, vetted out in the hiring process and completely trained and actually got on the street?
When the last time was? We hired a group in July of this year. It depends. We had a couple of officers that were certified from other agencies or states, and so they don't have to actually go through the 3 months in peer. But for the majority of the officers, they have to go through 8 weeks of classroom training that we do in-house with our department. Then they go to peer for an additional 12 weeks of state mandated certification training. They then return and ride with a field training officer for a period of 12 weeks. So it's well over 6 months, and actually what Councilor Brown was referring to, there's the time period in there to actually get them on board and hire them. It's quite a process that we go through with the testing and interviews, background investigation. So
I apologize. I probably should have restate that. How many, not considering replacements for officers that have retired, when was the last time we put new FTE officers on the street?
Oh, in 2006, yes.
And how many were at that time?
5. Yes, it was 5.
Other questions? Bob, James, and then Kermit.
As long as you're there, we provide some services in Sioux Falls that other communities don't provide, funerals being one of those. I don't know what that takes for time and so forth, but it's one of those things. We get letters to the editor periodically appreciating that, but other cities do not provide some of those services. What other type services are we providing in Sioux Falls that are not the standard in other communities?
Are you saying what items could we eliminate that we do?
No. Just there must be some standards. When we talk about the ratios, we don't understand how many, whether they're all uniformed policemen, whether they include their civilian people, whether we include our civilian people in our ratio and those type of things. But other communities are providing other services that we don't provide, and we provide some they don't provide. There must be a standard that's the goal of every police department.
Well, and some of that depends on the area of the country, the size of the city. Some of the things that we do provide here is when you call for a police officer, it doesn't matter what it's for. If you want an officer to come out to your house, we're going to respond. Whether it be a minor report type call or something more serious. We have in the past year started to take some of these reports over the phone versus having an officer go out and take the report. Frankly, I'd rather send an officer out, personally meet with the victim of the crime. You can build a rapport with them, maybe talk about some other crime prevention issues, and maybe they might not be telling you the truth, so you're able to get more that way. But we've been able to reduce a number of our calls that way that the officers actually have to respond to. Some cities, frankly, don't even send anybody out on those calls. They'll merely tell you that here's your number, it's been reported, you can give that to your insurance company and proceed with that. Our state doesn't mandate that you take an accident report if the damage is less than $1,000 in one vehicle or $2,000 in more damage combined with more than one vehicle. We in our city have provided an accident report for that since I came on the department. We do that as a service to the victims. People would come down after they've been involved in an accident. I want to see my report. Well, we don't have one. At least this way now we have something that documents our accident, might have statements that we gathered at the scene, and it also assists the insurance companies. So that's, a service that can be provided to them. You can look at, like some cities, I said, with the minor report type calls, they may not send an officer out. Some cities don't have DARE instructors. Some cities don't have officers in their schools. Frankly, again, I think a lot of those extra things that we do rather than just respond to 911 calls is part of what makes our city good and a great place to live.
Thank you.
Yeah, Doug, can you tell us what % of the calls that are received are actually calls that deal with crime? What percentage? Because I'm sure there's a lot that deals with accidents and those kind of things.
I guess it depends on what your definition of crime is. In an accident, you may have a crime involved. Normally when there's two cars that collide, somebody did something wrong, so they violated the law. More than likely
how about some misdemeanors and felony crimes?
So you want to know what the percentage is?
Yes.
Felony crimes?
Well, that'd be okay, too.
I'm not sure that, I don't have all those numbers.
Okay.
But
yeah, because
I would say in the very strong majority of the calls that we go on, they involve some type of crime.
So over 50%.
Oh, easily, yes.
Okay. Also, too, if you can comment on the remarks a caller made to me on voicemail. They were expressing concern about this increase in police officers because their perception is that during the daylight hours, they often see 2 police cars together or even sometimes 3 police cars together. And they were just wondering, why is this the case? Now, I mean, I think we understand that at night, if a police car stops somebody, then there's going to be backup automatically coming during the evening and night hours. But during the daytime, there seems to be a lot of 2 police cars at a scene, or even 3 police cars, and I've seen that too. In fact, during the past several years, it seems like we have more police cars operating in Sioux Falls than I've ever seen before. Can you comment on those impressions?
I think that's great. It means we're doing a good job. First off, I wish all the bad guys went to bed during the day and only came out at night, but that's not the case. As a matter of fact, the largest majority of our calls happens between 2 in the afternoon and 10 at night and during the summer months, and that's during the daylight hours. When we send more than one officer, we don't like to send just enough. We always want to be one up on the bad guys. If we've got a situation where there's an officer that might be slightly put into danger or have a situation where things could turn for the worse, we're always going to err on the opposite side and make sure that we have more than enough people there to handle the situation, because frankly, when we go on a call, in the end, we're going to win. And I don't want to have it turn into a situation where we respond to a call and we lose.
How about 3 police cars? I mean, I do see that once in a while. Is it a supervisor that's maybe there on the scene?
Quite frequently, that is the case.
Or whatever?
Yes.
Okay.
I'd like to respond to Dr. Staggers a little bit here. An incident just happened to me tonight. I left here at 5:30, and I live in the redevelopment district. I was going home, and I noticed I've got a constituent that's called me several times about the house next door. It's a rental property. Parties going on, and he was afraid to call the police department because he's afraid he'd be ID'd, and I told him that wasn't the case. Tonight I go by, there are 10 people out on the front lawn drinking beer, getting animated. I call 911, they ask for the address, I go around the block. By the time I get back around the block, there's already a patrol car going by. So I went around, met him again, got out and talked to another patrol car stopped by. That's two patrol cars. And I got to tell you, Dr. Staggers, I was darn glad to see him. So with that, I just urge you to support this here. I don't know about the ratio. I don't know about all that. I just know it's been a while since we had some cops, and I'm glad they're around.
Was anybody committing a crime, or?
Just, I got,
To echo Bob Litz's comments, I'm not quite so concerned about whether police are responding to an accident or the situation that Councilor Litz referred to. When someone calls 911, it's an emergency. It's an emergency in their mind. If my wife is in an accident or I'm in an accident, I call 911. Yeah, in the scope of things, it may not be an emergency to other people, but it is to me, and I expect to see an officer there. You know, there's a theory called broken window syndrome, where when little crimes get ignored, more serious crimes happen. We stretch our officers too thin, and we're going to see that play out here. Many cities have experienced that and have found that when you take care of the little crimes, the larger crimes do disappear. That's why I personally don't want to see us stretch officers too thin.
Kevin?
Well, I brought this motion forward for two reasons. I wanted to accomplish two things. One is to reopen the debate about ratios. We've certainly done that, and I invite more debate on it, even after this evening. And secondly was to actually fund our policy and put more officers on the street. I'm still working on that one, okay? Let me respond to a couple of the things I've heard. First of all, about the ratio. We passed it 3.5 years ago. I've heard people at that time, since then, and again this evening, grouse about it, talk about how it's inaccurate, how it doesn't apply to this city. What I have not heard in those 3.5 years is a substitute ratio. Nobody is willing to talk about what a good ratio is. I think it is beyond any reasonable dispute, ladies and gentlemen, that if you add 4,000 people a year to a city, you need more police officers on the street. In terms of funding our priorities, again, I can't emphasize enough. We need to either decide if this is our ratio, if this is our policy, then we're going to fund it. Until now, and for the past 3.5 years, this has been our policy, and we have not been funding it.
Yeah, I do have a couple of questions. First is a comment in reference to Kevin's spreadsheet. One of the places he looks to fund this is from Siouxland Libraries. It's my understanding we have a joint agreement with Siouxland Libraries, and we would be taking money from the, quote, county to be able to do this. I'm not sure we can do that legally. And then secondly, the issue is, we've heard in your previous conversations that we had in the budget preliminary discussions that your overtime has decreased. Explain to me why you need more officers when you have less overtime.
First off, by having shift minimums in staffing, we have to have a set number of officers on the street depending on the day and time of the week. There's also contractual issues that deal with overtime, holiday pay, court time. Oftentimes officers get involved in calls at the end of their shift, and that's where the overtime comes in. Very little of our overtime is actually scheduled overtime. So by hiring additional officers, actually it'll make our overtime budget go up, is what happens, because by funding the holidays and the court time and those sort of things that are basically built into an officer's schedule.
Thank you. I guess I need to ask the city attorney if that is an issue that we have with the county on funding this, these 6 positions.
Mr. Mayor? Yes, there is a potential problem here. If you'll recall, the Siouxland Library budget has already been set. It was set at a joint meeting with the county, and in fact, a joint cooperative agreement for the operation of Siouxland Libraries requires the budget to be set at a joint meeting between the city and the county, as it was done this year. I would be concerned were the city to unilaterally cut the Siouxland Library budget, that would be a violation of the joint cooperative agreement.
Pat, did you have your hand? You were next, and Kevin.
I guess for the benefit of the two of us that weren't here when this ratio came in, if other counselors and the chief could speak to this ratio and where it came from and how it applies to Sioux Falls, I would certainly appreciate it.
I can certainly. When we first, well, actually, when the mayor first came into office, there were discussions about police officer staffing, and he has and the council have done a great job over the last 4 or 5 years in bringing our staffing up. A couple of years, the first couple of years, we added a number of officers, and we were pretty much at about a 1.5 ratio, and there was an informal verbal agreement as to maintaining that as the city grew. That became a formal adoption of the council in 2004, a measure that was brought up by the council itself. I'll be the first to admit that the ratio is certainly not magic, and it is not the perfect solution to how we add officers. I think it was spoken to earlier about public safety and it not being the police department, and that is true. It's not just about the police department, it's about other city departments, and I think they all play an important part in why our city is safe, and that we found that to be evident in the 11th and Duluth area with the project that we've got going on there. It was more than just the police department. So by having the ratio in place, but I don't necessarily disagree with the concept of the fact that, as Councilor Kavanaugh said, as the city grows, there's no question that out of 7,000 people in 2 years, the odds are some of those people are going to call the police. So I'm quite confident that as the city grows, so is our workload, and along with that, just geographically, the city is growing and it becomes more and more difficult to cover all of that area and to be proactive and get into those outlying areas and help hopefully prevent crimes rather than waiting for them to come to us. So that's part of the reasoning why at least some type of measure, whereas as the city grows, that public safety needs to grow along with that.
As a follow-up, too, I'm just curious, where are we with the ratio? What is the ratio as it stands with the number of officers we have right now?
If we went on the population that's based at 100 or estimated 151,000 at the end of the year, we should have an additional 10 officers. Right now we're at 216, so that should be right around 226.
Kevin, you were next.
I just need to respond to previous comments about Siouxland libraries. I think it's a specious argument that they bring up now. We amend budgets all the time. I'm not concerned about that. Siouxland libraries would be fine. We're asking for $15,000 contribution from them. Last year they returned $210,000, and in 2005 they returned $290,000.
Also, to address the ratio, I can't remember specific cities, but I know that we looked at lists of cities and made comparisons of what other cities in the Midwest were in terms of ratios per population. So it wasn't something that we just pulled out of the air. There was research done, and we looked at comparisons.
Others that wish to address this issue? Council members, any questions? Others that wish to address the council on the proposed amendment? Not, we've got the amendment before us, and, okay, Kermit.
Yeah. Back in April of 2004, I opposed this very artificial ratio of 1.5 police officers per 1,000 people in the city of Sioux Falls. And the reason is this is just the essence of bureaucratic government coming up with these ratios. I mean, why not 1.7? Why not 1.8? For people who think that we should have more entrepreneurship in government, the real question is there a demonstrated need for more police officers? I mean, this ratio, it's not reality. Do we really need the police officers? And, at the time that the police chief, demonstrates to us that we really need more police officers, then at that time, of course, we should approve that. But just coming up with this artificial ratio, to me, is no demonstration that we need more police officers.
further comments? Kevin?
Just one response. It's not an artificial anything. It is council policy, has been for 3.5 years. And again, I will dispute anyone's contention that we do not need more police officers on the street right now.
You know, Kermit, I think I'm with you on the whole ratio thing, but I'm just curious from your perspective, what would constitute demonstrated proof that we need more officers? What is that measurement tool? Because
Well,
that's what I'm struggling with.
it's not my responsibility to come up with the measurement tool. What we have to have is the police department coming and briefing us on, really why we need more police officers. Where are we going to put those police officers? It's not our responsibility to micromanage, but at the same time, we shouldn't be engaged in this artificial ratio here that we have.
I agree. I think, part of that I agree with. I think it's incumbent upon any director, whether it's the police or public works or whatever, to tell us how to measure their department and show us where they're at in that measurement tool. And I think that's probably where we're going to head with our performance budgeting stuff. But doesn't the sheer number of calls and the number of calls held and the statistics that the chief had spoke to earlier, doesn't that kind of demonstrate a need?
Well, in 2005 to 2006, if I recall, in the Argus Leader, they had this little graph. The number of calls actually went down. So, you're probably going to get some ups and downs and so forth, but what does that prove? You have ups and downs. What we have to have is some demonstrated need for the police officers. Like I said, and I commend the police force. You see them all over the place now. And that's good, because we do want to deter crime. But just give us a demonstrated need, not this artificial 1.5 ratio. Doesn't make sense.
You quoted the Argus Leader. Did you read the paper this morning? There is a demonstrated need by those living in the outer areas of the city.
And I
was wondering if we want to go back and research my performance measurement stuff, since we're talking about it so much.
Sure, and we had, I think, a couple of people saying, yes, they would like to have more police patrols in the outer area. And if I was living in that area too, I would. But we have to have a demonstrated need that we really have to have that. Just because people want it doesn't mean that we have to go ahead and do it. We have to make sure we focus on, do we really need these additional police officers? Maybe we ought to have a redeployment of some of the police officers from the central area to somewhere else. But we have to have a demonstrated need.
Mr. Chairman, I think I can help the counselor.
Thank you very much.
You talk about demonstrated need, you talk about listening to the directors. I agree with you entirely. The chief asked for 5 new officers in 2008.
Well, I know the chief, if I can respond, has always been a big advocate of 1.5. Back in April 2004, the chief was in favor of that. I talked to him about that, expressing my concern that we shouldn't have such an artificial ratio. Just give us a demonstrated need, not just 1.5 police officers per 1,000 population. This is just pure bureaucratic thinking.
Questions? Any other comments? Got a motion before us, been made and seconded to approve 6 additional police officers. All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed will vote no.
Council members Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
No.
Blitz.
Yes.
Staggers.
No.
Benninga.
Yes.
Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jameson.
No.
That motion passed. On to the next one.
Mr. Mayor, may I request a 5-minute recess?
Yes. Mine's the last of yours. Yeah. Let me see if I can find something here for you. Let's see what we got here. Let's use this here. Okay. discussion here. Oh, okay, that's great. No, oh, yeah, I had a meeting at 3 o'clock, and we had a meeting at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Yeah, it's about over. We'll be out of here probably by 10 o'clock. Yeah, it's not. It'll take more time to read my amendments than to talk about them, so.
We'll see you Wednesday.
Okay, we'll see you Wednesday. Hey, thanks for coming. Sure. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, that'll make her day.
I understand where you're coming from, but go ahead. Yes.
It seems to me like the council votes against these people when they're down in mass. Everybody in the city wants something.
Oh,
They
yes.
just get bowled over.
Well, you're absolutely right. Oh, yes. There's this deference to these department heads. Oh, yeah.
Talking about instead of spending $10,000 on Vernon Brown one, he spent talking about 4 different resolutions.
Yes.
Kicked me from one meeting to convention yesterday, $700,000 last week.
Yes, and then they've got also another $150,000
This week?
Yeah, sure. Oh, yes, because they don't want to have an opening, because once we take $10,000 from them, they're concerned that in the future.
But nobody up here wants to do that. They got $500,000 in the bank.
That's right. I mean, that's exactly right.
If my kid has $5 in their pocket, they come and ask for another 50 cents, I'm going to spend their $5 before I give them another 50 cents.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's like, I don't know.
And we've heard the story about the $500,000 already paid. Well, that's according to the standards of the National Organization of CCBs and blah, blah, blah,
That's
blah,
another
blah.
standard they're holding, just like the police department's holding a
Yeah.
standard.
Anybody can come in any standard they want.
Years ago when I was at LCS, the guy told me figures line letters, you can make a number say that.
That's exactly.
That's exactly what they're doing.
That's exactly right. So, it's going to make a difference because now, these other departments are going to have some budgets. Well, hurdle not very much.
But
They don't need that.
just because a library guy's in there speaking up. The city attorney said he couldn't do it.
That's right.
I'll tell you, maybe if I check an account, it's going straight up.
I tell you.
Less air than I ever know.
Well, it's really worse than like fear of the action. I mean, some behind the scenes stuff.
I can't imagine. I mean, in a couple of years, when Charlie's here, I would very much like to run this position.
Oh, okay.
And that's why I'm asking. Yes, I'm going to spend a couple of years doing some great work here, but it's too bad that instead of some of those folks who decide they're journalistic in their attitude, they're making it matters. It's weird. It's like, why not have a discussion instead of dragging something out, sticking points on topic, and entertain what's going on?
Now, when Gerald released this, he says, well, I don't preface this with some comments. If I'd have done something, they would have emailed at me from over there. Oh, he's looking already for his amendment. What's going on here?
It was $2 list. It's like, they're going to approve something that's $2 list, and somebody isn't being earnest. It's like,
yes.
don't take $10,000 from the convention. It's like,
That's right.
I'm tired. I got to go to bed. You have a good
Hey,
night.
well, thanks for coming.
You bet.
And,
I might take you up on that, sir. Because I probably do have some good experience. I might try to cheat off you.
yeah, well, no, hey, that's great.
Okay, thanks, sir.
All right. Yeah, you bet. We'll see you. Oh, Bob. Well, at least this is going to be over pretty soon. So this will be over with pretty soon.
The city council meeting will resume in 50 seconds.
I can be coherent anymore. I don't even think I can be coherent. Let's just read these and get them over with. Let's just read this and get it over with.
People start going to- Okay, let's go to the next amendment.
The next amendment is Amendment 7, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to make the 2008 general fund expenditure budget easier to understand by moving Main Street, Sioux Falls from Department 25, Planning and Building Services, Professional Services, to Department 49, General Government Services, Professional Services, in the amount of $163,820, pages 121 and 122 of the detailed budget.
Is there a second? That dies
Second.
That dies for lack of a second.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry. I will second that motion.
Too late. Motion, it's already been tabled. Next one.
I'm sorry. Amendment 8 is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to make the 2008 general fund expenditure budget easier to understand by moving Sioux Falls Development Foundation from Department 25, Planning Building Services, Professional Services, to Department 49, General Government Services, Professional Services, in the amount of $175,000.
Is there a second? Kavanaugh, second. Go ahead.
Yes, what I'm trying to do with this amendment is not to reduce any funding for the Sioux Falls Development Foundation or to increase any funding. All I'm trying to do is to place it in a part of the budget which is going to be easier to find this subsidy that we give to the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. It's just going to make it much easier for people looking at the budget to know what's going on here, that we are giving a subsidy to the Sioux Falls Development Foundation, and it's going to be placed in an area of the budget where we are giving subsidies to other organizations.
Questions? Comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to point out to the council that that item is already segregated out on a separate line item. It is under public, under urban and economic development, but it is already a separate line item. And as I said earlier, this is one that has to do with accounting practices. We would still have to report it in this manner, even if you moved it. So there's not much we can do about it.
Question, go ahead.
Yeah, so there's no problem then, Gene, in moving it to Department 49?
It's still going to show up in the same place.
When you say same place?
It's going to show up under urban and economic development,
Oh, yeah,
regardless of
for
what
the-
department you put it in. And we'll just put Department 49 down under urban and economic development. It's not going to move.
Okay, so even though if we pass this amendment saying it's going to be moved, you're not going to move it in reality?
We can't, it'll be sitting in Department 49, but when we report anything, it's going to get moved down into this line item.
Okay, on that summary sheet that,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, any of our reporting, in our audit, in the annual audit done by Ide Bailey, this is where it will end up.
So I guess there's no problem then really in putting it in Department 49.
Other than it causes us a possibility of confusion in this sitting in Department 49. It's never going to show up in any other reporting that way.
Well, can I ask then why we have, for example, the Southeastern Council of Governments is in Department 49 instead of in the Planning Department? Or why isn't Sister Cities, which sometimes is involved in economic development, why isn't their budget in the Planning Department instead of, it's in 49 right now?
Yep.
So we have these two examples here of entities that could be in planning, but they're in 49.
It's not precise, and by any means, this is art as opposed to science.
Yes, that's right.
And the ones that we're talking about here right now clearly fit under urban and economic development, where CECOG may or may not.
Sister cities.
Sister cities, I don't know how you would put that under urban and economic development.
Well, I attend a lot of meetings of sister cities, and in the past, we've talked about having businessmen come from Ireland or Germany coming over to Sioux Falls, and also we try to encourage people to go over to those areas, dealing with business issues, economic issues. It can fit very easily.
Further comments?
Gene, I just have a question. In previous years, was this shown in the way Councilor Staggers wants it to be reported now?
Yes.
During those audits that you mentioned, Bailey, had they proposed any reclassification of those during their?
No.
Further comments? Further discussion? Others? We got a motion to approve the Sioux Falls Development Foundation. All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
No.
Litz,
Yes.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benninga,
No.
Brown,
No.
Costello,
No.
Jamison.
No.
That motion fails. Next motion.
The next motion is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to make the 2008 general fund expenditure budget easier to understand by moving forward Sioux Falls from Department 25, Planning, Building Services, Professional Services, to Department 49, General Government Services, Professional Services, in the amount of $175,000.
Is there a second?
Second, Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh, second. Go ahead.
Yeah, once again, on this amendment, I'm not reducing or adding to the $175,000 subsidy that we're giving to Forward Sioux Falls. The only thing is I'm trying to put it in an area where it's easier for people to find this, to understand, realizing this is another organization that is receiving a subsidy from the city of Sioux Falls. You know, we do have quite a few organizations that receive subsidies from the city of Sioux Falls. And so that's, once again, to make it clear for people when they're going through the budget book to know that this is an organization that's receiving a large subsidy from the city.
Others? Questions? Motion been made and seconded. See no further comment. All in favor of that motion will vote yes. Those opposed, no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
No.
Litz, Staggers,
Yes.
Benninga,
No.
Brown,
No.
Costello, Jamison.
No.
That motion fails. Next motion.
Next motion is a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to make the 2008 general fund expenditure budget easier to understand by moving the zoo subsidy from Department 64, Park and Recreation, other current, to Department 49, General Government Services, other current, in the amount of $1,334,048, page 182 of the detailed budget.
Second, Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh, second. Go ahead.
Yeah, once again, here's an attempt to place the zoo subsidy in an area where people can find it very readily. Right now, it's in the Park and Recreation Department. Once again, this subsidy we're giving a $1,334,048. I'm not adding or reducing. Now, another justification for putting in Department 49 is because we have a multicultural center placed in Department 49. So we can see the subsidy that we give multicultural center. You know, you could justify this by saying, oh, it should go in the Parks Department. Also, the Siouxland Heritages Museum is in Department 49. You could say, well, it should be in the Parks Department, but it is in Department 49. So I think it's very appropriate to put the zoo, along with the Multicultural Center and Siouxland Heritage Museums that receive subsidy, in the same place.
Questions? Comments? Others? All in favor of that motion, vote yes. Opposed, no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh,
Yes.
Knutson,
No.
Litz,
No.
Staggers,
Yes.
Benninga,
No.
Brown,
No.
Costello,
No.
Costello,
No.
Jamison.
No.
That motion fails. Next motion?
Next motion is Amendment 11, a motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 General Fund Reserve budget to prevent a city property tax increase by decreasing Department 49, General Government Services, Minnehaha County, current year real estate taxes, 3% CPI rate Minnehaha and Lincoln counties by $1,053,124, changing the amount from $37,759,699 to $36,706,575, page 1 of the detailed budget.
Second? That dies for lack of a second. Next motion?
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund budget to eliminate the sidewalk inspection program by deleting the sidewalk inspectors from Department 14, Engineering, $88,360 in expenditures and $13,950 in revenues for a net reduction of $74,410, starting on page 41 of the detailed budget.
Second? That dies for lack of a second. Next?
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the tree inspection program by deleting the team that enforces the trimming of trees on public boulevards from Department 64, Park and Recreations, for a reduction of $10,304, starting on page 166 of the detailed budget.
Second? That dies for lack of a second. Next?
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund budget to eliminate the red light cameras by decreasing revenues, Department 49, General Government Services, civil penalties, red light violations by $300,000, changing the amount from $300,000 to zero, page 4 of the detailed budget.
Second? That dies for lack of a second. Next?
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund budget by decreasing expenditures, Department 14 Engineering, Professional Services, Independent Contractor, Red Light Running Maintenance, by $300,000, changing the amount from $415,000 to $115,000, page 45 of the detailed budget.
Second? That dies for lack of a second. Next?
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund revenue budget to eliminate the city tax on cable bills by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services licenses and permits cable TV, Sioux Falls cable franchise fee by $590,000, changing the amount from $590,000 to zero, page 2 of the detailed budget.
Second? Dies for lack of a second. Next?
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund revenue budget to eliminate the special tax on 21st Street residents by decreasing Department 64 Park and Recreation taxes frontage 21st Street Boulevard by $3,304, changing the amount from $3,304 to zero, page 161 of the detailed budget.
Second? Dies for lack of a second. Next?
A motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the random drug testing of city employees by decreasing Department 07 Human Resources, Professional Services, Drug and Alcohol Testing, random non-DOT testing by $27,540, changing the amount from $82,135 to $54,595, page 15 of the detailed budget.
Second? Dies for lack of a second. Next?
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to Siouxland Amateur Boxing by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services, other current, Siouxland Amateur Boxing by $4,500, changing the amount from $4,500 to zero, page 156 of the detailed budget.
Second? Dies for lack of a second. Next?
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to To amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to the Parent Communication Network by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services other current Parent Communication Networks by $39,000, changing the amount from $39,000 to zero, page 157 of the detailed budget.
Second. Dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to the Youth Forum by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services other current Youth Counseling Schools Youth Forum by $17,500, changing the amount from $307,041 to $289,541, page 158 of the detailed budget.
Second. That dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the subsidy of the Sioux Falls Business Leadership Network by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services other current Sioux Falls Business Leadership Network by $3,750, changing the amount from $3,750 to zero, page 158 of the detailed budget.
Second. That dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to the Sioux Falls Jazz and Blues Society by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services, other current Sioux Falls Jazz and Blues Society by $7,250, changing the amount from $7,250 to zero. Page 158 of the detailed budget.
Second. Dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to the Sioux Empire Youth Orchestra by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services, other current Sioux Empire Youth Orchestra by $1,725, changing the amount from $1,725 to zero, page 159 of the detailed budget.
Second. That dies for lack of a second.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to kids voting by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services other current kids voting by $3,670, changing the amount from $3,670 to zero, page 158 of the detailed budget.
Second. Dies for lack of a second.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to the Ronald McDonald House by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services other current Ronald McDonald House by $4,600, changing the amount from $4,600 to zero, page 158 of the detailed budget.
Second. Dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to Southeastern Behavioral by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services other current Southeastern Behavioral by $12,500, changing the amount from $12,500 to zero, page 158 of the detailed budget.
Second. That dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund expenditure budget to eliminate the city subsidy to the Festival of Cultures by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services other current Multicultural Center Festival of Cultures by $8,000, changing the amount from $173,213 to $165,213, page 158 of the detailed budget.
Second. That dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 general fund budget expenditure to reduce the city subsidy increase to transit by decreasing Department 49 General Government Services transfers transit by $200,000, changing the amount from $4,008,774 to $3,808,774, page 159 of the detailed budget.
Is there a second? That dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 Transit Fund revenue budget by decreasing Department 68 operating transfers in General Fund by $200,000, changing the amount from $4,008,774 to $3,808,774, page 224 of the detailed budget.
Second. That dies for lack of a second. Next.
A motion to amend the main motion was made by Councilmember Staggers to amend the 2008 sanitary landfill expenditure budget by deleting 2 employees from the landfill scale operation for reduction of $91,653, starting on page 285 of the detailed budget.
Second. That dies for lack of a second. Are there any other motions you have?
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
No.
We have to vote on the main motion as amended.
We're back to the main motion as
Makes me
amended.
anxious to go home.
Back to the main motion as amended. Further discussion? Not all in favor of approving the budget as amended, will vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh.
Yes.
Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benninga. Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yes.
Jameson. Jameson.
Yes.
All members present voted. Budget is approved as amended. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved. Let's.
Second, Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh seconded. All in favor, vote yes. Those opposed, vote no.
Councilmembers Kavanaugh. Knutson.
Yes.
Litz.
Yes.
Staggers.
Yes.
Benninga. Brown.
Yes.
Costello.
Yep.
Jameson.
Yes.
Stand adjourned.